I'll check it.
Okay. And I like to, when it's live, I'll
You
send
like
it out on
you
Facebook.
you like to monitor it? Oh yeah, yeah. Send it out.
I monitor it, but I like to send it also
Yeah,
just so that people know.
very cool.
So I was off work. I've been off work for the past week, and in that week, in addition to Christmas and New Year's and other stuff, I've got 8 pages inked that were penciled, and I've got a page and then this page penciled today.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean I did. Hang on just a second, and I'll show you the one I did earlier today. Um, but the one I did earlier, and Michelle and I went running around, so I probably could have got 3 done pretty easily. And my pencils are pretty loose.
Pardon me.
My pencils are pretty loose, but they're as tight as they need to be.
Excuse me. Uh, classic down the wrong pipe. Go ahead.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You're too far for me to drive to just to hand you
Yeah,
on
oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
back.
do the Heimlich maneuver.
Exactly. You'd be dead by the time I got there. Sorry.
Yep.
Lean on the back of a chair. Um. Anyway, my pencils are pretty loose, so I hang on, I'll show you the page that I did earlier.
Okay.
Um. And this page is I got this page is, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah. Uh huh. Let me
Oh,
look at it right side up on the YouTube.
oh, is it upside down in your monitor?
Well, it's kind of sideways looking. Yeah, yeah. There we go.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm watching it. I got my TV tuned on YouTube so I can see it. And I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. No,
no,
that's nice. Nice. Giving yourself a little breathing room. All this stuff I'm doing,
yeah.
everything, the script is totally written with the idea that every page has breathing room, and I'm not making 10 panels to cram in, but
Oh,
that's me saying, okay, this is how a guy writes for himself if he's a lazy artist.
oh, yeah. Now, see what I did is, of course, I printed it. This is my thumbnails. I
Hmm.
print them on the back and then lightbox them. So I spent. I guess it was last night. I went through and I did the last 6 pages. This is page 17. So this is the last bit of issue 3, and then I'll be done with issue 3. And I've contacted the writer and said, "Hey, I'm about done with issue 3." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I better start." He hadn't written issue 4 yet, but we know he knows what's going to happen, more or less. I don't
Yeah.
know. I may call him and talk to him about it, or we may talk. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it because we usually talk, and he'll kind of tell me some of what's going to happen. He always surprises me. I love working with this guy, um,
Well,
because
that's cool. I mean,
yeah, he's pretty reasonable, and he hadn't been. I feel like I've been real slow at this, which is weird because when I have time, I can work fast. You know, but man, it's just an hour a night or whatever, a couple hours a night. It's hard to get anything done. I was telling Michelle though. I mean, at the I've done 2 pages today. If I was working on a mainstream book, I could do that in the evening.
yeah,
Which is probably the best way to work on a mainstream book, I think. But yeah, uh, I don't know. So that's especially because used to that they always said you got to do a page a day. Now I think now I think the theory is they do more. It's more like a book every 6 months, or not 6 weeks. You know, And so,
Well, if they pay them, enough per diem and all that kind of stuff, and it'd be interesting the day to day. To me, this is the kind of job that really begs to have people coming in and putting their seats in a chair and working in an environment, kind of
oh,
like
like CrossGen did.
yeah, something like that, where you want to get together and stay
Oh,
focused together and like that. And
it's,
but
comics is
I guess the dream has always been to have something where you don't have to interact with anybody. Artists typically
that
like,
I think that's the thing is that everyone kind of goes, or a lot of people go, well, I don't want to work in an office.
yeah, I mean, um,
It was the old cliche. Well, I want to work in my pajamas or whatever kind of crap.
yeah,
But I mean, I don't. I work in an office. I work in an office, and I do. I mean, for like a art job that's not in entertainment, I do pretty. It's a pretty creative thing. You know.
yeah. You get to you use 3D software and do a lot of
I
different stuff.
the other guys do. I'm more the crack the whip guy, but yeah, it's we're designing products and but working in a group works good. Of course, I'm the guy that does this, but because you can everybody has their strengths, and so
Mhm.
you can kind of. But I mean, with comics, I guess it's a little bit different. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
yeah, and everybody liked going, but there was a time, that that time written about where Kirby and all of them were
yeah.
working in an apartment and stuff like that, and cranking
Well,
it out. Well, I mean, working with
well,
your inker.
even back in the the golden age. I mean,
Yeah,
Eisner had a studio, and all those guys had.
yeah. But they
You know,
actually did have studios. Yeah,
yeah, it was a production kind of
yeah,
thing. I mean,
yeah,
comics has always been like that, though.
yeah.
You know, that's kind of the
It
thing.
was kind of
It's
a
like,
garment. It was almost the garment industry.
yeah, yeah, that same kind of thing. The same kind of almost it was piecemeal though.
Yeah.
You know, you paid per page versus paid for each dress you sewed or whatever. Um, I forgot where I was going with that, but to me, I always liked the cross gen thing. That always seemed pretty cool. You know, because it solves a lot of problems. But a lot of people, people didn't want to move, of course. You know, but they had apparently they had health care and stuff. It's just too bad it didn't really work. You know.
Yeah, a lot of these plans, the bottom line, you don't know what it is until you get there, unless you're some old pro. And some of these old pros, like, it's funny to read and hear about James Warren that was in Warren Publishing. I thought if there was anybody that was like bulletproof to, because he put out so much product. So I thought, well, he must have known exactly what to be up to at all times. But no, they were hand to mouth often
Oh,
doing that stuff.
I think comics have always been, except with few exceptions, and for a few people, comics have been poorly paid, and I mean, certainly for artists, maybe I think writers might have a little bit easier because they don't have to sit at a desk. They could do more work a little bit easier or whatever. Not that it's easy.
Have you got Netflix?
Me, no.
Okay, so you can't see
What?
Witcher. Okay.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah, I just finished that off early this morning. I had about 50 minutes left of the last one. Watched all of that, and it's decent. It's you'd like it because it's plays on all the Dungeons and Dragons kind of classic kind of environments.
The
And,
tropes.
it probably wouldn't exist without Game of Thrones to show everybody, yeah, like this is worth money to spend on this kind of thing. But it was done well enough. And the only time, it lags is when they get into Star Trek type of things where they say, okay, here's the big story and it's all about this political brouhaha that will be happening. And then they're, at that point you're away from story. And so,
Yeah, but yeah,
or
it's interesting.
away from character rather. And the characters are fine. They're compelling. They keep you busy.
Oh,
With the Henry Cavill, the guy that plays Superman.
yeah,
He's the main guy, and he's really cool. He's worked out a couple of really neat mannerisms for himself, and I guess they might be in the game as well. I've no idea how the game plays, but he's got this like throwaway hum. He does, it just like he just goes hmm. And I don't know what they do to enhance his voice, but it's done really well. It's better than I'm Batman, definitely.
oh yeah, that's funny.
It's good. It had a lot of fun moments in it. About 8 hours
Oh
worth of
yeah,
it.
I think a lot of this stuff wouldn't exist if it weren't for The Walking Dead.
Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the what Netflix is up
Or
to has got to be pretty exciting to people that want to make movies, I would think. Because I've got something that, it's just totally implausible. I have this thing I started on, this strip, and I did a couple of the splashy opening pages to it. But at the same time, if you're thinking, wow, you can't sell this because it's sword and sorcery and it's this weird notion you've got. Heck, it's evolved. It would be fine if I went right back to that project and got busy on it and and developed it, which is
yeah,
fine. I think anything is going to go in this very near future because they got so much need for product. Think of all these people that have decided they're in the business of being streamers, and as artists that are doing sequential storytelling, we should be people that could excite somebody's imagination and want to see something that you've done realized in movies. But of course, that's you should want to see it as a comic book as well. It shouldn't be something
oh
that
yeah.
only excites you if it becomes a movie.
Well, it's funny you say that. There's a guy, I'm a member of the Comics Experience, which is an online school for basically learning how to make comic books. And I've taken some classes, but they have a forum that you can be a member of, and I'm a member of the forum. And they, one of the guys that they just kind of brought on staff, used to work for Marvel. I don't want to say who it is, but he was at Marvel, and then he quit Marvel. Oh, and he went to work. I mean, if anybody knows him, this will give it away. But he went to work for Amazon, and then so in the comic stuff or in the group, he's been talking about how his experience at Marvel with storytelling has worked into some of the stuff he did at Amazon and stuff. And and the thing is it's like comic people have like his contention is that comic people have a particular set of skills, and I would agree with that. But it's interesting because recently I had jury duty, and in fact I was going to email this guy and tell him about this because one of the things that the prosecuting team did, and I don't know if they did, and I assume this is how it works. they built a case, but they were basically storytelling.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, these lawyers, half of getting in front of people is to be able to do that whole.
Yeah, they put together the story of, hey, here's the crime. Here's what happened.
Got to keep people have got to be awake during it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they had a lot of information to give, and if they just done like a data dump of, here's this and there's this and there's this, odds are it would have lost the jury or some of the jury, and it would have been confusing. But what they did is they told the story of the crime.
That's what bugged everybody. Yeah, that's what bugged everybody about the O.J. Simpson's prosecution, was that fairly often those guys that were in charge of the prosecution lapsed as storytellers. They were just awful, and it just you could feel it.
Yeah, they didn't have the ability to put it out there, and so anyway, this guy's contention is that storytelling works in a lot of different. It applies in a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. It applies on. Yeah.
Not just particularly strictly entertainment. It's not the story has more than just the entertainment value, I guess, is what I'm saying. Anyway, so did you do anything for New Year's? I asked, knowing that you didn't.
Well, it was today New Year's? Because I did some stuff.
Yeah, today is the first day of the new year, Ellis.
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff. I did. I raked a whole bunch of leaves. I got 2 trash cans full of leaves. I changed my height on my television in the front room, which was something I've been wanting to do for ages. So that's a good kickoff of the year to do a project.
Wait. Would you?
I changed the height of the wall mount on the TV in the living room.
Oh, okay. So you actually unconnected it and re-put it in. Did you move it up or down?
Yeah, and that task, looking at it, it looks like, oh man, that's going to be a lot of trouble, and it was enough trouble. But the main trouble was just finding this one socket wrench that would fit the exact thing. But then when I found it, it worked for every instance of the socket wrench that I needed.
I put a television like right there in front of my desk on the wall. But the thing is, this desk I'm at doesn't hardly move, and I've got stuff stacked up I got paper stacked underneath it, so I had to clear out under it. It about killed me to do it, man.
Yeah, you don't like to dig into the big messes, but at the same time, that's stuff that really needs doing. Don't leave big messes laying around.
Yeah.
I say that Michelle, both you and Michelle have been over to my house recently and realize I live in a constant state of messiness.
Your house is fine. My studio is terrible, man. I told Michelle when I'm done with this issue and I'm waiting for the next issue, it's okay for her to go, should you clean your studio while you're waiting?
Yeah, and usually you don't realize. That's what I like about tearing into a big mess, is when you get just started, it's over before you start. It's like you push this that way, you push this that way, and then all of a sudden it's all where it needs to be.
I don't think I'm gonna be that lucky with mine, but we'll see. Maybe.
That's these guys that I'm reading. Something About a Soldier by Charles Willeford, which I've read before, but this just goes to show how little retention I've got, because I might as well just now be reading it all over for the first time. He was in the Philippines before World War II, and his insights about what they got up to as just regular servicemen in the Army Air Corps. Everybody, your whole existence is based on dodging bad tasks. You don't want to You don't want to get KP. You don't want to, do all the rotten jobs. But then there are guys that manage through, ingenuities and all that, that they don't do anything hardly. And at this time in history, I don't know if it's still the same way over in the Philippines, but the Filipinos did everything for the GIs that was considered, menial. It's like, hey, don't get into his, I remember from Sand Pebbles, it's like, don't get into his rice ball, in terms of like, Steve McQueen wanted to do certain maintenance tasks himself. And the Chinese coolie really objected to it because that was his deal. But, over in the Philippines, they just got to get away with farming it all out to the Filipinos, all the bad stuff. It sounded great. And for a guy that was just a natural, he came from hard times. He knew what hard times were. So it seems weird that people would instantly embrace, not working at all if they got a chance not to. When they're
yeah.
Anyway, that's what I'm reading now.
What war was this during?
Oh, this was there was no war at the time Williford started, but then the poor guy, here he is, this lazy guy that just soon not do anything. He will eventually be in the infantry and be part of the Battle of the Bulge. He was a decorated soldier in the Battle of the Bulge. And, but nobody that was in the Battle of the Bulge didn't go through just complete miseries. That was one of the worst places on earth.
So he was in the Battle of the, but he ended up in the Philippines, or he was in the Philippines?
He was in the Philippines beforehand, before the war, even though the Japanese had sunk one other thing. I can't remember the name of the boat that was sunk. So they'd done something bad, and there was talk about, hey, we gotta. It's interesting, since we've recently seen Tora Tora, that there was yet another incident that had everybody should have been saying, okay, the Japanese mean business here. They will be doing us dirty here pretty soon.
Ellis, I'm reading the comments. We've got one from Farmer Dan. Do you know Farmer Dan?
I'm not sure. I asked Farmer Dan who he is, because he makes some funny comments every now and then. I'm wondering if I know him, and if he'd own up to being somebody I do know.
This K-Fob comic that I worked on. It was an anthology. There was two of them. I did a pinup in the first one, and I did a story in the second one. I think it's called comic K-Fob Comics or something like that. The story, the pinup, I was really happy with. The story, I wasn't happy because the colorist re-inked some stuff, and I hated it. But I mean, there was some good stuff in it. I think it's K-Fab. Let me see if this is it. K-Fab Comic. No, that's every time I come with that, I come with Cartoonist K-Fob, which is Ed Pisker's thing. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can find the exact title of it for you. That would be a drag, though, being in the Philippines and ended up in the Battle of the Bulge.
Well, he works his way. Right now, he's at the crucial moment of saying, well, do I re-enlist or not? It's still the Depression, and jobs I know are hard to find. So he's going to talk himself into another kind of re-enlistment. I had no idea how fluid you could be within the military services of saying, well, I've tried the Navy, I'll try the Army, I'll do this. That sort of thing. Apparently, at least back then, you could do it fairly easily. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you would. Well, of course, they had less less branches back then, at least one
Mhm.
less.
Mhm.
But anyway, the name of the Farmer Dan said he's just a YouTuber that likes our, which I appreciate that.
Well, yeah,
You're
I appreciate your taking an interest in us. I thought from your comments that you might be somebody that was giving me a little bit of an anonymous bit of teasing, and you knew me really well or something. I wondered about that.
Anyway, there was K-Fob 1 and K-Fob 2. I don't know if there was a 3. They may drum me out of 3. I don't think the guy that wrote the story. The guy that wrote the story that I drew, I don't think he was happy with what I did. Like I said, the ink or the colorist changed a lot of my stuff. I mean, and I wouldn't mind that. I don't mind that it's better, but they didn't make any. They didn't re-ink some stuff that they thought I'd messed up on or whatever. You know, and I don't have a problem with that because comics are collaborative. To me, it was so glaring that it wasn't, because they didn't even attempt to make it look like I had done it. You know, it's just they just did it in their style, just redrew some stuff,
Yeah.
the writer
Yeah,
they
go
had
ahead.
worked with the writer, so I think the writer asked them to do it. That's fine. But you know, when you work on those anthologies, that was the last anthology I'll ever work on, because when you work on those anthologies, you have no control. First off, you don't own it and pay generally, and uh, you know, I was talking to, and you always do it thinking, oh, this will be something that'll be really popular, and you know, it'll get me noticed. And if you talk to others, nobody looks at them, and they said, "Well, it's too hard for you." It's a good experience. We'll say that if you don't have a lot of experience working in comics, it's great. And if you're a writer, it's great because you can do it. You don't have to worry about getting an artist. But if you're an artist, it's kind of tough to get noticed. I think, you know. So I was advised not to do them by somebody at Marvel. Do them. They're not. But I always say do. And you're probably not interested in doing comics, but my advice, I always tell, because people say, well, should I work for free or should I do this? My thing is always, man, get the best deal you can, and if the best deal if the best, your number one goal is to get work in print. If you can get something in print that you're not paying for, that might be your best deal, even if you're not. Forget about getting paid necessarily, because a lot of people pay initially to get their stuff in print. You know, now at a certain point when people are, you know, coming to you, you know, don't be a chump, but get your best deal, get the best deal you can get. I mean, would you agree, Ellis?
Yeah, it's something your guy ought to just keep stroking away at. But like what you're up to here, if you hadn't heard from and had a good feeling about the guy, I would say, man, Scott, you're spending entirely too much time on something that as a collaborative property just can't pay you big. I mean, it all it can do is give you a you know a it'll make you maybe make a splash with it, and you may get popular by being associated with it and all that. But you know, if it was something you wanted to go on with, I think you really got to get a little bit of that itch to do the writing, because that's those are the only guys that are really going to you know find themselves in a situation where, like, hey, I better stick with this and you know keep chunking it out because it's finally getting a toehold and it's all mine, you know.
Oh yeah, that thing is, you know, Yeah, I think that's the thing. The goal is to own it. Now,
Yeah.
I'm working on. I own half of it basically, but it's still, the trade off on me for this book is it basically, even though I'm not getting a page rate, it came with a publisher attached. The writer the publisher put us together, and I don't know that the writer would financially be able to pay if I were to say, well, I'm not going to work. I'm not doing anything unless you can pay me, a certain amount of page rate. I don't think he could have afforded it. I could be mistaken. And we've made some deals about some financial stuff, and I think in the book will work out for me. If it doesn't, I at the very least, I'm working on this knowing that its odds are it's going to be in print, and the publisher will support it because the publisher supports everything this writer has written. So I don't feel like it's like something that I'm going to do that's just going to vanish or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that will be nice to see something that does show up here and there and does get solicited and things like that. You want that.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm done with this page.
You are.
I'll show it to you.
Page of pencils.
The bottom's a little.
Wow.
Page of pencils. They're a little loose, but I don't know what this is. I've probably got maybe 2.5 hours in this page.
Wow.
That's 18, so I'll start 19 right now. But the good thing is I'm inking it myself, so anything that maybe is a little bit too loose, I'd rather err on the side of a little too loose and then touch it up than to do real tight. And I'm working with a light pencil because I hate her. And so I was working with the previous darker pencil, and I'm going to kill myself having to erase all that. So I'm going on loose. This is, I don't know if you can see this, the pen you gave me. It's a Eagle turquoise drawing H pencil. You bought a box of these, I think, at a garage sale. You told me.
Yeah. It was like some weird vintage stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
it was they may have been 50-year-old pencils for all I know. Yeah.
I went online and I bought them. Somebody on Amazon was selling a box, and they were from like the 39, I think.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, they're identical. I don't know one you gave me or one from that box, but I bought a whole box of them because I liked it that much. It's got a nice line to it, I guess, or whatever. Anyway, okay.
You bought so you also bought some extra heavy dark. What are they called? Matsu.
You know what? I got this here. Yeah, and I'll show you this when you come over Friday. It's a Mitsubishi. It's a 9850, and it's a little bit darker. That's why I'm not using on this because I have to erase this. But yeah, it's I was drawing a sketchbook with it, and it's got a feel. I'll give you a couple when you come over Friday.
Farmer Dan says he's subscribed to Classic Cinema Podcast. He's an old movie fan, and well, when you say old movies, of course, our movies are 73. We're going to be watching the Ipcress File this coming Friday, which anybody that's ever a big Michael Caine fan would probably know the movie. It's also got the guy that was in Zulu. He was in Zulu with him. The guy that played Hercules in the the Harryhausen, Jason and the Argonauts. He's the Hercules. I always associate with how he says the line, "If there's a willing woman there, let no man stand between me and, some soft woman." And I always loved how that guy did that line. And he's Hercules, so who's going to argue with him? So, and then of course he's got his little buddy he's running around with. Yeah, the way they did the the myths in Harryhausen's thing, just a great job. That's probably one of the, like Tom Hanks says, I can tell you the greatest movie of all time, Jason and the Argonauts. That was his firm belief. Yeah.
We saw that in the Harryhausen thing.
Yeah.
The Harryhausen show. They had the clip of Tom Hanks saying that. Somebody asked him, best movie of all time. He said, Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah.
Without a hesitation.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to see it, anybody watching, there's a Ray Harryhausen show that was traveling around a couple of years ago that's really good. Got a bunch of props, but it's what I really enjoyed beyond the props was some of that art, man. I mean, I've seen it in books, but the books don't do it justice,
Yeah, Harryhausen's actually sketching ability. Yeah, his actual ability to draw.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Harryhausen had it all, I guess. It says Farmer Dan. I've seen Zulu. Pretty young Michael Caine in that one. Yep. Very memorable movie. What's that? What'd you just say, Scott?
He wasn't even the star, was he?
No. It was I guess you'd call it ensemble. Yeah. He was they had so much
just a movie about
stirring stuff. Yeah, it's a movie, man. I don't know. And it seems like I've seen it with a making of kind of commentary on it. Good movie.
Oh, really?
I think I've seen it, with some background, or maybe it was probably a Turner Classic Movies, one of those things they have sometimes. Yeah, good old Michael Caine. I guess he won't be around forever. Who was Lolita died. You talk about you're getting old. The girl who played Lolita died. Sue Lyon, I think. And I love that movie, even though, it's like you almost have to defend yourself for liking that movie. It's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
You're into pedophiles? What do you mean? It's like, no, the story is about idiotic men who think they can get away with this kind of behavior. And the idea of, you can call it the heart, but it's basically lust. And that, the character played by Peter Sellers in it understands all. He understands that it's totally lust that's driving James Mason, and that. Anyway, in the audio book read by Jeremy Irons, who I guess, I don't know if he willingly got drawn into even more because he did his own movie version of Lolita, but his spoken word version of Lolita is just so fun to listen to. What? Jeremy Irons.
Who's that? Nabokov or whatever?
What's that? Oh, Nabokov. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Nabokov.
Yeah, that's something that wouldn't get written today.
Well, that's the deal. The guy's writing is so snappy. It's and descriptive.
Would get it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not doing anybody any good by talking about how good Lolita was. I guess that could be not thought of as popular topic.
Yes.
It was always controversial.
So
of course, and I recently finally rewatched. I've only seen Eyes Wide Shut once, so I finally saw it again and really, really dug it this time. That's what it takes. I think
It's an odd.
yeah, it's a very odd movie. Well, because it's only about what is going to eventually go on in Cruz's head when he realizes his wife has these, you know, you could say flaws, but they're not flaws. She's just being honest. She's telling him that, you know,
Yeah.
she's jealous a little bit. She's seen him, you know, squiring around these real attractive little girls that he's obviously enjoying their company. So
Yeah.
she decides to lay it on him that she's got a little bit of that in herself, you know. But that all of a sudden becomes like a torment to him, and that's what the movie's about. Him with this burden of walking around, can't get her off his mind after that.
Yeah. To me, was the movie finished?
Well, it wasn't. No, he died with it pretty much. No, it was pretty much finished, but there was work to be done. But yeah, everything was shot, and a lot of edits had been delivered. But then, of course, you know, you're still working on the ultimate edit, and all of a sudden, the genius is dead, and truly was a
Right.
genius. And so, where does
He
it go
died.
from there? He died of just a sudden
Right.
heart attack.
Yeah.
Well,
So
he-
it's not like he could prepare.
Yeah. No, he wasn't on his sick bed saying, "You must do this for me."
Yeah.
Like what's that?
Yeah. I don't-
What's that composer? That they made a movie, Mozart, Amadeus.
Yeah.
Have you
Never
seen that?
Is it good?
Oh, you've never seen that? Oh yeah, you got to see that someday.
No. I've heard it's good.
Oh, it's very good.
I used to work with a guy that loved movies, and that was his favorite movie.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know. It doesn't seem like the kind of movie that anybody would say is their favorite movie, but this guy used to work with him.
What's that?
This guy worked with him, and his wife would go see movies, and then when they got to review them, they would write reviews for each other. You know?
Yeah, Farmer Dan is following right along. He's watching all of it.
Oh, I should
Listening
watch
to
that.
all of it.
Let's see.
I'm having fun drawing on the iPad, but this is a little too soft. It needs to get a little tougher with.
Oh yeah. What are you working on, Ellis?
Oh, I'm working on my own little strip called. This is called Coin Toss, the ultimate comic book right now.
Oh, Coin Toss.
Yeah.
My favorite
That's
sport.
right. That's right. Hey, John Dabney. John Dabney has checked in. He said, Lolita. No, he says, yeah, that's pretty hard opinion to admit that you really like Lolita.
Yeah.
Now the movie, I mean, there's so much to like about the movie. You've got Peter Sellers and all these great performances.
We live in a society where it's okay to shame people for having an opinion. So why
Yeah,
not?
oh yeah. Your opinion could be the end of you nowadays. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got to reverse that somehow. It's gotta go back.
Yeah.
Put back in the box.
Well. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love social media.
Well, that
Hang on
may
just
be
a second,
it.
I'll
That
check
may
my
be it. There may be an evolution on this whole idea of of getting together on social media.
No, I think I think it's like a drug for a lot of people. You
Mhm.
know,
Well, like I say, I was off of it
I
all day today. Your brain is different.
yeah,
You take a day off. It only takes you a day off, and you'll just feel like a totally different person. If you're
oh yeah,
really badly habituated to it, you'll feel it.
I took off in the spring because I took a couple days off to just work on art, not any particular project, but just study and draw. And so my thing was, well, I don't want to waste any time being on social media, so I wouldn't even pick up my phone in the morning, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
look at it occasionally. But I told everybody I need to get hold of me. Hey, if you need me, call my home phone. And when I got done, I realized I came to resent the intrusion of people texting me all the time and or sending me messages on Facebook. Didn't you answer me? You know, it's like, well, hang on, this is my time. You're intruding on my time. You know,
Yeah.
it did not take long to, and I still kind of resent it. People will text me occasionally. It's like, who's texting me now? You know. Of course, I think part of that is that at work I have to answer a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
You know,
You do
feel
enough
like I should be
interacting at
paid.
work to suit you. Yeah.
Exactly. But you know, then this week I took my phone into the Apple store to get a new battery put in it. If you watched last week's, my battery was running out, and I got a new battery in my phone, and I was without it for a couple hours, just no phone whatsoever, and I kept resisting the impulse to check my email. After I'm okay with this, you know. I don't need to check my email. No one's emailing me. There's no reason for somebody to email me. If they email me, it's somebody I don't want to talk to.
It basically becomes a mannerism.
You know?
It's like pushing your eyeglasses back, whether they need it or not. The old finger in the middle of the eye.
It's like,
huh? What's that?
It's just like my cousin that smokes. You know. Well, you know, I get up, I light a cigarette. You know, whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I think one of the main things I used to doubt that I could ever visualize myself as a non-smoker was like, you mean smoking on the toilet without a cigarette? I don't. And that may sound pretty gross to a modern audience that wouldn't allow probably in the house for anybody to even be smoking. But man, that's the only way I used to go to the bathroom was to sit down, have a cigarette. That's the way you did it.
You know, it's funny you say that. I did a podcast about Christmas, one of my podcasts, and one of the things I talked about was that I remember I shaped my childhood, especially holidays and stuff, because so many of my relatives smoked, you know, and my grandparents didn't smoke, but they'd be at my grandparents' house smoking. You know, my grandparents had those big cigarette lighters sitting on on their end tables. You know,
it was just a courtesy and understanding that this was a big industry and everybody was smoking.
Yeah, so a lot of my relatives smoked when I was a kid. You know,
didn't do them any good.
Didn't seem to affect. No, I don't know that it really hurt any of them particularly though. Not like not with the traditional lung cancer kind of stuff. You know, but on the flip side, you know, my best friend in high school, a guy named Kevin, he never smoked, but man, his parents smoked and they died of different kinds of cancer. And then Kevin ended up getting cancer and he died from it, you know, and he never smoked, but it was all in smoke. And
I wonder about that. I wonder about.
Yeah, there's some people that don't buy into that or whatever. And I'm not trying to be political.
Well, no, I wonder more about the genetic predisposition to be a guy that maybe is.
That may be.
His genes have got some sort of receptivity to going bluey on him. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it may just be, he genetically or predisposed to getting it because both his parents died of cancer.
Yeah.
Dad died of brain cancer. His mom died of lung cancer.
Oof, man, the
So
brain cancer, man. Bad news.
uh, yeah, poor dad. The yeah, I'm not related to anybody that's ever died of cancer.
Yeah, it's been pretty rare. Russell, if anybody was going to get cancer, my brother was in the chute you would think to get it, but no, he smoked and got the basically whatever you call that emphysema and everything else, and
Oh yeah.
he just went ahead and just wore it out.
Oh yeah. See, my cousin, she smokes. She has that COPD.
Yeah, that's what Russell had
And
too.
oh yeah, he wasn't on oxygen, was he?
He had an oxygen thing, yeah, but he only just tried to use it intermittently. He didn't act like it was
Oh yeah. See,
absolutely necessary all the time.
My cousin just got on oxygen. But I mean, she gets so wore out that So I don't know. We'll see. I haven't seen her since she got it, so we'll see if she's always using it or if she's intermittent with it. But,
yeah. Really, I'm drawing like I've got an audience for how I draw with the iPad, but it's actually it's just killing me because usually my posture is so much better when I've got it in the living room, and here I'm reaching out to it, and killing my back after all this miscellaneous labors I've done today. It's like, okay, I can do this, and I'm not drawing as well either because of the discomfort.
Oh, well, do you need to go? Is it that
No,
bad?
no. What time is it? How long have we been here?
42 minutes.
Okay, we've been here a while. All of this particular page right here has been drawn in this position because the only other time I've drawn on it was when I talked to Doug. I guess you caught part of that one, huh? It's interesting. It's always fun to talk to Doug.
Oh, and says you never hear the old familiar smoking or non-smoking section anymore. Yeah, that's true. I remember when I was a kid, I flew to Washington, D.C. There were people smoking on the plane.
Yeah, I've been on a plane and smoked. I'm that old. Yep.
You smoked on a plane?
Yes, I've smoked on a plane.
Well, do I need to let you go, Ellis? We've been 42 minutes. If you need to go, if you're
well,
back,
I don't need to go. I'm just complaining. What else do we need to talk about? We need to talk about any other events that have occurred that are coming up. I guess just listen to a Classic Cinema podcast, and we've had some interesting ones. Like, what's your next pick? What are you going to pick for our next entertainment?
I had something the other day I thought I might pick, but I can't remember what it was.
We had an interesting email from our friend Barry notifying us that our first pick, which I guess was my pick, of King Kong will be given another revival go in another 2.5 months at a Quail Plaza Twin something or other. And
one of the local.
We're thinking about going remote for that and checking that out.
Yeah.
And I can always see King Kong. It's just too classic and is too much of a childhood fun time that I can relive it just the moment it starts. Just the moment she's stealing apples and all that, and I say, wow, this movie. It's got in our comments, I think on the time we reviewed it for our podcast, it was like, man, there's just no wasted space in this. Bam, 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 set up. You're there.
Oh, yeah. The original King. Well, I would even argue that the other King Kongs are pretty good too. Now, Peter Jackson's is kind of a little bloated, but
yeah. I guess that struck me as, everybody always claims stuff is guilty of looking like video games. Well, yes, the Peter Jackson stuff did look like video games, but the main thing that I think starts to happen when you've
Yeah.
got all your assets built like that is that you can do anything. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, pick and choose what you want to do. Just be really harsh with, oh, that looks better like that. I should let it gray out.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that sort of thing. But I do appreciate him for trying to recreate the spider pit sequence. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. You're talking about the stuff that was missing from the original one?
Yeah. His recreation of that was kind of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Farmer Dan says the seats on the plane used to all have ashtrays. Yep, you're right.
I think Peter Jackson's Kong's problem. I don't know if it was Peter Jackson. I don't know where the problem came from. One of the problems was it's that CGI thing of, well, you can do anything, but if you don't need to do anything, you can do anything. You don't need to do everything. I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to know it has to serve the story, and it can be a spectacle that you lose sight of what the story is. It's just like going, like we were talking about earlier about the DA, presenting the case. You can have all the evidence, and we saw in the OJ trial.
Yeah,
you have all the evidence in the world, but if it's not presented in a good manner, you're gonna lose the jury.
Yeah, you really do have to have beginning, middles, and ends, and it's got to have something that you've got to early on have a hook that you keep like alluding to that maybe is going to pay off eventually. Keep them wanting more. They got to keep their attention.
Or keep them engaged.
What's that?
Keep them engaged. I think.
Yeah.
Keep them engaged. That's the thing, and that's the deal with the case. And I think Peter Jackson's call got so big, and I don't know how long it was. It felt like it's 4 hours long.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it may not.
It also suffered from, I think it had a perfect little Fay Ray, but then also the cultural Stone Age changing that they did. I didn't like the primitives. I didn't like their architecture in general. I like the idea of that massive wall that dated back to who knows when, before time began. They've been having to wall off these creatures. That was just more of a fantasy, imagination kind of thing. He just didn't match any of the originals' grandness. Even though he had all that beautiful effect.
That's funny because you think of all of them, his should have been the biggest. He had more tools at his disposal. And probably a bigger
Farmer Dan says he's heard that Peter Jackson used miniatures. No, I don't think so. I don't think he used any tabletop anything. I think he was all CGI. Well, yeah, he's too closely associated to that Weta and all that. But Jackson has used a lot of cool gimmicks. He has used tabletop models before, and what's that one called, Brain Dead or something like that? That where everybody gets rabid and starts. It's probably the goriest movie ever made. Yeah, before Peter Jackson.
Okay, I'm looking.
What? Peter Jackson and used miniature. Well, Peter Jackson, before he started on Kong, he tried to round up all of the original Kong's memorabilia he could. He got the old armatures of the Triceratops and all that stuff. He's searching.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, I'm reading Wikipedia about it. The big thing is apparently the motion capture It doesn't say anything about.
I mean, you would
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
call CGI. I'm just trying to think of anything that he used that I would call a miniature. Maybe, well, no. I'm trying to think. Nah, old timey New York. Nah, that would be all CGI. Hey, I guess we can call it quits. I think we just hit an hour.
Okay, are we done? Okay.
Yeah. I'll see you Friday. And
Okay.
you guys,
Hey, thanks, everybody.
check out those links and join us on Classic Cinema Podcast. Go ahead, whatever you want to say there, Scott. I didn't mean
I
to
was
interrupt.
just going to say, now I want to watch the making of I got that DVD. I'm gonna look at it. I'm curious. No, I just want to say thanks to everybody that is watching, that watches now and watches it live. It's always nice to see John in the audience. And yeah, check out our podcast, Classic Cinema Podcast. The most recent one. What was the latest? What was the recent one we did?
Tora.
That's right.
Done right before Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
December 7th.
But we watch it. If you don't know about it, what we do on that show, on that podcast, we take turns. The four of us, we pick a movie that's a pre-Jaws blockbuster. So in other words, it's like a summer hit cycle, like we're in now, basically. But it's a movie before that, because we feel that kind of changed the way movies are made, certainly the way they're marketed. And we take turns picking a movie, and then we talk about it. We'll talk about why the movie is important to us, and then we go and we watch it. Now, we don't record the watching of it, but we watch it, then we come back and discuss it, because typically some of us have not seen the movie. In fact, one of the guys that picks, he only picks movies he hadn't seen.
Yeah, and he's picked some of the best ones, yeah.
He's picked some of the worst ones, too.
Well, Tora was a recent example of, what's another one that he's picked that wasn't particularly good? I don't know.
Oh, there was one he picked I thought was terrible. It was Freebie and the Bean.
That was me. That was me. We had to see Freebie and the Bean.
It's been interesting because a lot of them I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But anyway, check that out. We do that once a month, and usually it's about an hour and a half. And
your other thing is, that's about it.
Oh, I do. Oh, yeah. Let me pitch my podcast.
Yeah.
Pitch it every week called Scott at Midnight, and literally it's the stuff that I want to talk about that doesn't fit in any of the other two podcasts that I do or the live stream here. Recently I had Jury Duty, like I mentioned. I did 2 episodes. Mine's fairly short. I try and keep it between 15 and 20, or probably 15 and 30 minutes. I did 2 episodes about jury duty. I didn't talk too much about the case, but I talked about just the process of how the legal system rolls. Because I thought it was interesting. I learned a lot on jury duty. And the most recent one was about Christmas. I'm going to do one sometime between now. I release them every Sunday. It's called Scott at Midnight.
It is one of our links, isn't it? I think.
I don't know if you got a link to it or not. But anyway, you can check that out. And I've talked on all kinds of different topics. So,
Well, I'll add that as a link then. If I shoot me the direct link to that, and I'll add it to this thing I cut and paste each time. Okay, well, we will call it quits then. Here we go. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thank you. See you Friday, Ellis.
Okay. We're no longer broadcasting. Now I will end our connection. Just as soon as I figure out that button. Yeah, what?